Hey guys, it's Charlotte aka Holly Sense here on YouTube. I do beauty, fashion and lifestyle kind of videos, so if you enjoy that kind of thing, please hit the subscribe button down below. That would be great. We hit 100 subscribers and then 3 people unsubscribed, so oh well. Anyway, this video is slightly different to what I've done in the past, but it's the kind of video I'm interested in and just the kind of topic I'm interested in. So as you might have been able to tell by the title, I'm not sure what I'm calling this video yet, but this video is about sex education. What brought this on is I've always been interested in sex as a topic and kind of like the history of it and stigmas and different cultural views on it. I mean, I did like sexual ethics when I did my A-levels. We kind of learned about sugar daddies and high-tech Asian sex dolls and all that kind of stuff, but also like relationships and like the reasons why people cheat and stuff like that. I find the whole thing, like sex and relationships, so incredibly interesting because it's different from country to country, and you know, it's changed in the last 10 years and the 10 years before that, like it's constantly changing, like stigmas and cultures and all that jazz, and I just find it all really interesting. And that's only in kind of recent years that that's been a thing. I used to be a bit like the average kind of kid where like you kind of giggle when someone says penis. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to share my experience when I had my sexual education, how I think it should be, and any advice on anyone who is kind of going through that time where they have sexual education. I had 2 different sex ed kind of things. So the first one was when I was in year 6. I was like 10 or 11 years old. We had sexual health professionals come in to my primary school, and it was only the year 6 class who obviously went through this, and we kind of talked about periods, and then the boys went off with like one of the teachers. Oh no, never mind. I'm getting myself mixed up. So they talked about kind of like puberty and the kind of changes that'll happen in your body, and then one of the male teachers took the boys off, and apparently they talked about wet dreams, and the girls stayed with the sexual health people and talked about periods and all that kind of stuff. One girl I remember actually fainted in it, and I don't know if it was just one of them weird random things because she's never been a fainter, because I've known her, like I finished school with her, like I started it and finished it with her, and she's never fainted before. It was the first ever faint. It was a very random time. I think it was a bit kind of shock, I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of like whatever, it was like the puberty talk. And then in year 9, when I was about 13 or 14, I feel like I was 14 at the time, we had the like proper sex ed talk. I've got notes here if you want to know why I'm looking down. So the kind of things that we were talked about, like this time we didn't have any healthcare professionals, we just had teachers. So we had a brief talk about the anatomy of a vagina and a penis and kind of like what each kind of bit does, but it was very brief. We were taught about basic contraception, but it was all female based, and I think there was a couple things that weren't in it. And we had like brief like positives and negatives. Never talked about depression when you're on the pill, that was never mentioned. There was like a purple, not a dildo, but it was one of them like scientific models of a penis. So we taught how to put a condom. We did about STDs and had like pictures shown. We had a brief talk about consent, and it was, I'm pretty sure from what I remember, I mean this is like 6 years ago now for me, I'm pretty sure it was just like no means no, and we didn't have like a body language type of thing, because obviously only a yes means yes, but everything else could possibly be a no, like, you know what I mean. We didn't have anything about body language like pushing away or hesitating. And we had a brief talk about peer pressure, although from my experience at school, peer pressure in the general sense wasn't really a thing. We didn't really have people saying, oh yeah, you should smoke or you should drink, or there wasn't anyone bragging about having sex and making other people feel like they should have sex, so that wasn't too, and that was like my whole time at school, like up until I left at 18. we didn't have anything about gay sex or relationships at all. So that was my experience of sex ed. Very brief, very heterosexual based. Bear in mind this was 6 years ago. So in my opinion, how it should be is obviously how to put on a condom, all types of contraception and all positives and negatives, including talk about how the pill can cause depression. STDs, obviously. We should talk about gay and straight sex, because I know when I did it, there was an openly bi boy in my class. I mean, he came out as bi before he came out as gay, just to kind of make it a bit easier. I think at the time he'd come out as bi. So realistically, we should have had that talk. Consent, verbal and non-verbal. Peer pressure from your peers, as in like your friends or the media and society, but also from your partner, like the person who is wanting you to have sex with them. Makes sense. Anatomy and how everything works, obviously. The physical consequences of sex, so UTIs and again STDs, but infections that aren't like sexually transmitted, you know, like bacterial vaginosis and thrush, stuff like that. But also the mental consequence of having sex, so how you as a person might change or might feel afterwards. That's really important, I think, because I think there's a lot of this kind of expectation of how sex is meant to be and how you're meant to feel afterwards, but if you don't feel like that, that might damage you as well. So that kind of thing should be talked about. But I think what's really important is porn and sex. So obviously everyone knows teenage boys most likely watch porn. Teenage girls probably do as well. I know if you're kind of like, I don't know what happens, you might just watch it. I know I watched it just because I was like, I didn't know what was a thing. Luckily for me, I took everything with like a pinch of salt and was just like, well, I didn't take it as like, I didn't take it as that's what's meant to happen and that's what does happen, because porn a lot of the time is made for men. And when I did watch it, to kind of, I don't know, I was a very innocent child and I was just like, but I don't understand how things work. So that's, I watched it to kind of be like, okay, how does things work? But I didn't think of it as, okay, that's how it is every time. Like, I still knew in my head porn was a lot of the time kind of fantasy and just kind of made up to what men want in porn, if that makes sense. But yeah, because all kids at some point most likely will watch porn, whether it's, you know, because they have their ages, I feel really weird saying this, or if it's because they're like me and are just kind of like, I'm so confused, I don't want to ask anyone about it, but I just kind of want to know what kind of thing goes on. Just know that that's not how it is, and kids need to be taught that porn isn't how sex really is, and it's not to expect that and not to learn how things work through porn. I think that's really important, because I mean, porn's all well and good. I feel like I've said porn way too many times, it's kind of ridiculous, but there's the negatives. You know, a lot of people end up being sex addicts because of porn, and that porn kind of makes it even worse, and that's when things can get kind of abusive in the bedroom, and it's just, it can be really dangerous. So you need to teach kids to be safe with it, and that's, you know, porn was never mentioned when I did my sex ed, you know. Of course it was mentioned when I did sexual ethics, but that's because we were talking about the ethics of everything. And at the time, obviously, my teacher was like, well, they're adults and we can have this conversation seriously. So yeah, they're the things I think that should definitely be mentioned and should be talked about, because at the age of 13, 14, I mean, you're 2 years pretty much off being legally allowed to have sex in the UK and America, as far as I'm aware. Okay, so my advice, if you are going through or about to have like sexual education, if you are confused and want to know a bit more, then there's a YouTube channel called Sexplanations, which I think is really good. I learned a lot of stuff from that. Even like after I did my sex ed, this was like when I was probably like 16, 17. I just found it through a Hannah Witton video, I think. But also there's a channel called Lovehoney. Now this is funny because Lovehoney is a website that sells lingerie and sex toys. They started advertising in the UK. I'm just like, well, fair enough. But their YouTube channel is very much just kind of like informative about sex and all that kind of stuff. So I would say check out Sexplanations first to know about everything. But if you're someone who is having sex, Lovehoney would maybe just kind of help you through that. I don't know. But also do your own research. That's what I did. I will link to Sexplanations, Lovehoney's YouTube channel, and a bunch of other links that I think will be helpful for you down in the description if you just want to, if you don't want to ask someone, because I know it can be really like awkward to just be like, hi, can you like explain this to me? But at the same time, if you are confused about anything or you just want to ask any questions, just talk to someone who you trust and you feel comfortable with, whether that be a teacher or your parents or a doctor, because at the end of the day, sex education is very important. Sex is just a normal thing of life. Everyone does it. As much as you will hate to admit it, I mean, your parents most likely did it to conceive you unless they did that artificial insemination thing, which is just very clinical. But I mean, it's still, you know, your parents have had sex. Everyone does it. So don't be afraid to talk about it and ask about it, because at the end of the day, this is your health and you need to know this stuff to keep yourself and your body safe. I feel that was maybe slightly rushed, but I'm trying not to make this a really long video. I do want to make other videos kind of on this topic because I'm one of them people who just thinks the stigma around sex just needs to go away. I don't understand why it's there. That being said, I was very awkward. Never asked my mum a thing about sex, and she never just said anything to me anyway. But I'm way more informed than she is on it. We've had conversations lately on it because I just feel like me and mum are a lot closer lately. And yeah, I seem to just know a lot more than her about it. But again, it's a topic I'm interested in. Okay, I've had to switch over to my iPod really quickly just to finish the video. If you have anything you'd like me to talk about in the future, leave it in the comments below. But yeah, if you are kind of going through this, I know it's really awkward and I know you kind of want to giggle at everything, but just take it seriously, because at the end of the day, the teachers don't really want to be talking about penises and vaginas. It's not in their job description, really. So yeah, just take it seriously, because, and if you do have any questions, just ask. Even if you take the teacher aside at the end of the lesson and just say, hi, I have a question about this. Like, they are there to help you. And like, they're not going to be too bothered about any questions you're going to ask. So yeah, I'm going to do some more videos on this at some point, probably. I just think it's really important that, you know, sex ed gets better. I did a survey on it that the government put up. It's closed now, but I feel really strongly about it because my sex ed was so shit. I forgot to mention, actually, I talked to a couple other people I know who are around about my age, but who I didn't go to school with, and who went to school at different kind of like areas of the country, and they kind of said the exact same thing. Just that there was nothing about gay sex, you know, like, it was really unhelpful. They got their like sex education mainly from like doctors or like their parents or something. and that it just wasn't really informative, and I think that really needs to change, because a lot of people are having unsafe sex, or who are in unsafe relationships and are feeling really confused and hurt by everything to do with sex, you know, and that can be prevented with good sex education. So I just think that needs to be better. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, if you have anything you'd like me to talk about in the future, just pop it in the comments below. I'm very open. I'm not really funny about talking about these things. I'll talk about anything. So there's no off-limit topics, if that makes sense, really, I don't think. Nothing too personal necessarily, but you know what I mean, like topics in general. I'll talk about anything. So yeah, I hope you liked. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe down below. Like I said, there'll be links to any helpful pages and like stuff like that in the description as well. So yes, I'll see you next time. Bye!